Hello, welcome to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host, Iggy. Yay. Thank you for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to take a look at some U.S. cavalry figures produced by a company called Paragon. Now, Paragon was in business for roughly 10 years and were bought out by the Hobby Bunker. So things must be going very well at Hobby Bunker that they're able to acquire an asset such as that. And now Hobby Bunker distributes Paragon Scenics and miniatures throughout the United States. In other words, they will also sell these to other hobby stores to sell in their establishment. So let's take a look at these. I showed you the Sioux Indians in my last video. So here we have the U.S. Cavalry in a medium blue. It's made of a resin-like material. In other words, these figures are very dense, they're heavy, and they're hard. They list on the bottom of each figure the date that they were copyrighted, which in this case I think was 2010. It's either 2010 or 2016. I can't make it out there. But it says Paragon, made in China. Now, these represent a cavalry figure from approximately 1880, around that time period. This illustration is from Frederick Remington, and you can see the uniforms. Frederick Remington was a keen observer of the U.S. Cavalry during this time period. He also made a lot of sketches of horses in different poses, running poses, poses such as that. Frederick Remington had a sketchbook, and he filled it with such illustrations so that he could go back to his studio and create his paintings. One of his competitors, by the name of Schreivogel, used to paint on top of a building. And it's really weird to see he's creating this Western scene, and he's on top of a building in Hoboken, New Jersey, or someplace like that. You just don't expect that. But Frederick Remington's studio, he had a bunch of artifacts, Indian artifacts, and U.S. cavalry equipment so that he could get the details right when he was creating his artwork. This was a tough time for the U.S. military. There was a lot of budget cuts after the Civil War. In fact, the American government struggled to pay its debts owed as a result of the war. And so in 1913, they passed the personal income tax laws, and we still have it to this day. So I guess in a way, we're still impacted by the American Civil War. So the men were not paid well. Some of the forts that they were stationed at were a mixed bag. For instance, Fort Robinson was, their barracks were really nice. They had heaters, the potbelly stoves. They had gun racks and bunks, and it looked like a pretty cozy looking barracks. And other places like Fort Ruby were terrible. In fact, Dances with Wolves, the fort where they sent him, was based on Fort Ruby. In fact, it even looks like Fort Ruby in the movie. So let's take a look at each of the figures. This is my second video, by the way. My thumb hit the other one. You want thumb? And I turned it off after I was almost done. I was actually coming up to the point of the video where I was going to say goodbye, and I pressed the off button with my thumb inadvertently. So anyway, you'll see here that the men are wearing um, these cartridge belts, which were made of canvas. And at one point, they had this open buckle like this, and then it was replaced with an H buckle. But the men didn't like the H buckle, and they took them off, and it left a wire clip, which is similar to the World War I and World War II cartridge belt. And it actually became part of the Army dress code, that the H clipped on to the buckle, pardon me, a hiccup, was removed. And I think that was in 1903 or 1904 when they finally got rid of H buckles. Now you see that the soldiers are wearing the riding boots, which are a high-topped boot, almost looks like a stovepipe. And you can see that these figures here also feature that sort of footwear. You'll notice with these figures, they're not carrying a sword. And that was one of the things that almost wiped out Reno's command at the Battle of Little Bighorn, is that Reno's command, his assignment was to go into the valley created by the creek, and the Indian camp was at the other end of that valley, and they were to charge forward. Well, they didn't have any hand-to-hand weapons, and they almost got killed. They came very close to getting wiped out. They retreated in a big hurry, but they weren't carrying swords with them. And you can see that none of these figures are here, so you could use these as the 7th Cavalry very easily. The flag bearer here is carrying what is known as a swallowtail guidon. They had the regiment's number on here, but sometimes they would have an American flag that was cut like that also. They've got a mixture of slouch slouch hats, and Remington depicts how the men would personalize their hat by folding it and creasing it. You can see here his is turned up in the front, and each man had an individual style. This fellow here, he's turned up on both ends, and they don't really feature that as much on this. They all pretty much have the same hat style. But in circumstances where men have to wear the same clothing in order to make themselves feel unique or an individual, they would do that with their hats. So each man had an individually styled hat. This one, he's wearing a forage cap with the brim of the hat turned up a little. That's how I used to wear mine. It was like that. And then as far as the slouch hats, I guess mine probably resembled this one over here more similarly. I think I have it on display in my kitchen somewhere. Let me see, do I still have that on display? Yeah, it's up there. See it? The brown one? That's what I wore. Okay. Now this prone figure is very similar to this here, which I think is very cool. And what's cool about, I sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's cool. It's very cool. I think I like this. It's very cool. Sorry, Arnold. I love you. These have interchangeable heads. And I always like to see a guy get a head. So let me show that to you. It's a plug-in head. And here's the one with the kepi or forage cap. And then there's the slouch. And what's nice about this is that you can have one figure and create different styles, or make you feel like you have a different pose. Why is it doing that? It's not staying in focus. Also, it has plug-in pistols. And instead of the flag, carrying the flag, you could have them holding another pistol. So that's kind of neat. And that's the figures that have plug-ins are the flag holder and the prone figures. The Sioux set I showed you also had several plug-in figures too. And in that case, it was a shield, a tomahawk, and a spear that you could alternate and create new figures. So that's kind of a nice feature. Did I mention that these are made of a resin-like material? They're very dense, they're heavy, and they're hard to the touch. They also list on the bottom who they're made by, which is nice. I don't know if you guys have this problem, but I have quite a number of figures that are unidentified because they're made by companies like Peyton or some other company back in the 50s, and there's no markings on any of them. Luckily, there's a lot of guide sources. In fact, a really good source for identifying things is Toy Soldier HQ. And he sells figures there, but he also gives a great amount of wonderful information on his website. So I urge you to check that out. It's called Toy Soldier HQ. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. That's the Frederick Remington painting. I have a Frederick Remington over my sink over here, but it's such a mess over there. I don't think I want to show it to you. At any rate, that's all I've got for you this time. I managed not to press the off button with my thumb this time. I hope I spent enough time on each figure so that you could get a sense of what you're looking at. And I'm sorry that I don't have the packaging because I don't know if this is... Oh dear, I just dropped all my lead figures into my skillet. Oh no. I don't have much room to work here, I'm afraid. So what did I do with it? Is it... Oh, here it is. It's back here, guys. Alright, here it is. And this says set number 2. I think my brother gave me set number 1 last year. Although last year I went into the hospital right after Christmas because I had COVID and pneumonia. So I'm kind of fuzzy on details but I'm pretty sure my brother got me set number 1 last year. It gives you an idea of how much it costs. You get 12 figures for $18. And this shows Paragon Scenics and miniatures. And then on the back it shows that Hobby Bunker is the distributor. Okay, guys, that's all I've got for you for this video. So let's go to a cafe called the Chuck Wagon and get some scrambled eggs and sausages and toast, buttered toast, and hash browns. I love hash browns. And some fresh squeezed orange juice. That sounds great. So we're going to change it up a little bit. But we still can meet Roy at the Chuck Wagon Cafe. That will be fun. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you for getting Iggy with it. For those of you that enlisted in the Iggy Army, I want to thank you for joining us. And I will be back again, I think maybe with some metal Britons that my brother got me for Christmas. This also is part of the Christmas. The last couple videos I've showed you have been Christmas loot. I sound like a spoiled kid. You know what, guys? I am a spoiled kid. I admit it. Anyway, I'll be back with you soon. So long, amigos, and thanks for being a saddle pal.